Hi, and welcome to Aikido Every Day. My name is Christian Crump, and I'll be your host today in the show where we talk about Aikido on and off the mat and how it relates to our everyday life. I'm here with guest Michael Hanatsky, who is a Aikido sensei, my sensei, and founder of Aikiway Professional Development. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
Michael, let's start off with some history of Aikido. Why does Aikido exist in the world, and what's its purpose?
Well, Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, was born in 1883, and at that time it was very important to know a martial art in Japan. He was a very serious student. He studied sumo, spear throwing, jiu-jitsu, and other martial arts as well as swordsmanship. He became very proficient and mastered many of these arts, but he wanted something more. He realized that by defeating an opponent through force was not the right way to go. And he realized he could harmonize with the energy of an attack and neutralize aggression and lead it to a peaceful resolution.
So Aikido is similar to a judo, lots of flowing and throwing?
Actually, Kano Sensei, the founder of judo, when he first saw Aikido, he said, "That's what I want." Because judo tends to be more physical than Aikido, depending upon the quick throws, the techniques, and the joint locks, where Aikido tends to protect the aggressor.
And judo is a sport, so there's a scoring system, there's competition, it's in the Olympics. Aikido is not, is that correct?
It is correct, because Aikido is not a sport. It is a way of harmony and actually a life philosophy. The techniques of Aikido actually teach you how to apply them in your daily life. So the techniques, while they are martial and based upon the sword, they also teach you how to interact with others and blend with people or neutralize conflict.
For many of our viewers who might not know Aikido and only know maybe karate or what they see around the octagon and the formal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how is that different from karate, kung fu, or a mix of other martial arts?
Well, Aikido isn't interested in stopping the aggressor. We tend to be open, well-centered, and neutral, and we always know how to stay in a safe place. So if you think about an attack, the attack has a target. So if you move the target, the energy is not as intense when they anticipate striking the target. So if I stand still, of course I would have to absorb that energy. But if I move out of the way or lead and redirect that energy, I'm in a safe place that's neutral, and I'm also able to protect the opponent or the person aggressing towards me, which could be physical, but in the professional world it's almost always verbal. Sometimes it is physical. People walk up and they really want to tell you a thing or two.
Have some energy facing you.
Yes, so we learn to step to the side and move away and dissipate that energy.
And so you've been an Aikido sensei for 15 years, 18 years? More? 20 plus years?
1991 I started teaching Aikido.
1991, amazing. And you've transitioned from teaching Aikido to now teaching Aikido off the mat in corporate America. What got you started doing that?
Actually, it was my students. Most people think about Aikido or martial arts specifically, you teach children or teens and a few adults. I was the odd case. I taught almost all adults and a few children, although the children, which were high school age, I treated them with just as much responsibility as adults. So my adult students suggested, what you're teaching here is solving so many of my problems at work, dealing with difficult people, having confidence in conversations. All of these things that they had struggled with every day, I was able to solve. Now, I may have taught a martial technique in the dojo where we train, but the principles behind it help them develop the skills and confidence to overcome aggressive behavior.
Do you find some of the same skill sets overlap from the dojo into the boardroom or the conference room, the training room?
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Because in Aikido, one of the main things we do is learn to open up our awareness, our sense of mindfulness. In fact, I call it applied mindfulness or advanced human dynamics. Because in the study of Aikido, you're truly studying communication. Everything that other person thinks or feels or how they move is a way of communication. We learn to read the subtleties in another person quite early, even before they verbalize it. So translating that into management, leadership, customer service, anywhere in business actually gives you an advantage because you suddenly begin to understand or feel the shift in energy when people change their mind before they verbalize it. So you can dissipate negative energy, or you can create such a centered piece of presence that they say what they really want to say. You can have authentic communication very quickly. Executives hire me because they say, Michael, I only have 5 minutes with someone and I need to get to the bottom of this now. But usually when people are speaking up to an executive, they say instead what they think the executive needs to hear.
Right, instead of what truly needs to be said.
Yes.
I remember a story one year in the dojo you were talking about where you were teaching a woman who was a phone operator, and she would always smile before. Do you remember that story? Always smile. So she was practicing Aikido on folks that she would be calling 1,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away, a continent away. Could you share that story about how Aikido helped her from one spot to the next?
Well, before we make physical contact with someone, over the phone, it's auditory, of course, but before we connect with someone, we have a sense of intuitively connecting with them. So she chose to greet each person in the best possible light and expect positive response from that person. So if you've ever been on hold with a company or customer service someplace, sometimes they go, hello, thank you for calling. You know they're very tired. Maybe the last customer beat them up. She didn't do that. She would always come back to her center point and greet them with great expectations. So she was able to encourage a positive response from them. They were calling because they had trouble anyway.
And she reports that people could see her smile across the phone lines, that they could tell that she was standing up, she was upbeat, she was positive, and in turn made their days even better.
Yeah, because she wasn't focused on what's your problem. It was, how can I help you? Or we're going to solve this together. Or you know what? Let's just have a conversation.
Do you find in the corporate world a fix where people are just at a headlock, where maybe no progress is being made, and you can come in and observe the communication between the two, and with a subtle shift, a turn or an entrance, things dissolve?
They do. I was on the East Coast teaching at a large company, and of all things, out of the blue, someone asked me, what's the hand motion for drawing a sword? Now, we had no swords there. You would never teach because of liability in the corporate environment. But I said, well, this is the hand motion, and this is how it works, and I told her how to stand. She said, okay, great. Well, I heard from her a couple weeks later because there were 2 members on her team. These 2 gentlemen would just tease each other every time, and one would tease the other until he would kind of break down in front of everyone else. That was the way they started their Monday meetings. She had had it up to here. So what she did was, she goes, well, I thought back to that sword technique, and all I did was I stood up from my chair and I used the same motion to grab for the eraser on the whiteboard and pretend I was going to write something down, and it completely broke the tension in the whole room.
Wow.
And a few weeks later, these gentlemen stopped teasing each other so much. And it did take a few months, but she was able to retrain their behavior.
Now, Aikido is 3 different symbols, I, Ki, and Do. And my favorite is the Ki. And you're talking about the motion that she made with this, expressing Ki. Can you tell us in a quick snippet about Ki and the energy that we send out?
Well, we are energy. And in Aikido, I stands for harmony, Ki stands for energy, and Do stands for the way. So it is the way to harmony with spirit. So when we practice the techniques, we extend our energies. We don't withdraw and hold them. When we do, we're very unaware of what's happening. But when we extend and radiate our energies, we become very much aware of what's happening. So Ki in Japan, spelled Ki, is about the intrinsic energy. Qi in China, Tai Chi, is about the energy. If you're in India, it's prana. These are all studies of energy, very deep philosophies from each country and understanding. And to learn how to extend this energy and interact with others makes all the difference in the world.
I'm fascinated. I love Aikido. I've been studying under you for many years, not since 1991, but a few after that. I understand we have a demonstration that you're going to run with 2 brand new Aikido students, and you're going to talk about how you can use and they can use Aikido off the mat in a professional setting. Does that sound fair?
It does, and we'll even throw in a few basic Aikido techniques.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Christian. Hi.
Hi.
Steve?
Yes.
Mike?
Mike.
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
What's one of the first things we do in a workplace setting is we walk up to people, right? And there's a certain social distance that's acceptable and a certain social distance that is just unacceptable to us and actually creates tension in our communication without realizing it. Now, if I walked up to you like this close, how do you feel?
A little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable or too close. In some cultures, they are very comfortable at a close distance. In our culture here, we're more comfortable at about a handshake's distance, right?
Yeah.
So that's more comfortable. So what I want to do is, if someone, step back just a little bit, if someone walks up and stands too close, what can we do? We can stand there and feel uncomfortable, or we could step back, right? So if you walk up again, and we'll take turns doing this. As they walk up, just take a step back. Hi, how you doing? So my stepping back and raising my hand subconsciously caused you to pause. So you may have had something maybe negative to say to me, but I'm controlling the energy in the situation subconsciously, okay? Yeah. So I'd like you to do that a few times. So first, we'll go ahead and walk up and just stand too close. Okay, that's very uncomfortable. So go back again. And then as you step forward, just learn to step back and, hi, how you doing? That's simple, hi.
Okay.
How you doing, okay? So you'll play out my role first. And Mike, you'll stand here. You'll need to start a little bit closer here. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, so first have too much tension. It's a little closer. You can tell, you can tell. And then when you feel uncomfortable, stand back. Okay, once more. Start back a little further. There you go. One more time. And then as soon as you start to feel uncomfortable, just slide back.
Okay.
Now, you're stepping in forward. You're stepping back and maintaining your balance and center. It's fantastic. So let's exchange roles now. So you'll stand here. You need to have room to move back. And you can go ahead and stand up and be a little too assertive. Yeah. So as soon as you sense the person's too close, you just say, hi.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Mike.
But
Good to
see,
see you.
your tone of voice also dissipated any tension. So
Okay.
once more.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing we can do, let's go ahead and stand over here. And this time I'll demonstrate with Mike. If you were stepping forward and reaching for me, I can simply turn to the side. So all I'm doing is touching shoulder to shoulder, but I'm turning to the side. Now, this represents someone maybe having one idea, yes, 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 and I'm thinking, no, no, no. So what I can do instead is, as he moves forward, I can look with him. This is very different psychologically, that we're sharing the same viewpoint, we see the same things, we can share an idea, or having a walking meeting or something. We're looking the same way with this person, as opposed to me standing here and feeling run over by this person. It is a physical attack, but it teaches also that how to maintain your center and balance as you step forward, that I can move and simply point in the other direction, okay? So we'll do that again, Stephen, with you here. So you'll be stepping in as you were, Mike, and you get to turn and point. You're pointing. So and this time, rather than put your hand on the back, just point it out in front with him.
Okay.
So where the hands point is where the energy flows. And once more, then we'll exchange roles. Okay, great. So just to make it easy, let's go from there. So you'll turn.
Wrong way.
No, that's not a wrong way. That's just another technique.
Okay.
There are over 6,000 basic Aikido techniques. So we have plenty of time. So you're learning to turn and point. Yeah, just turn and point. So much of this has to do with teaching, maintaining our center, being balanced, and being willing to move. So many people are unwilling to move. Do it once more. Okay, great. So thank you, gentlemen. Of course, in Aikido, we always begin and end with great courtesy and etiquette, because if our etiquette is not right, then we're open and we're unaware of what's happening around us. So this time is if you reach for my shoulder here, I simply turn. So I'm still turning, but there's more of a reach. Go ahead and reach for the shoulder. I'll just step behind you and distance myself here. Your energy's moving in that direction, but you don't see me, do you?
No.
The only reason you know I'm there is because I have a very light touch.
Correct.
If I were to grab onto you, that would tell him where I am. But a very light touch tells him something happened, but I don't know what happened. And that's a good thing for us. We want to remain safe. So as he grasps, just step behind and touch the shoulder, and you're a nice distance away. In fact, one of the best things you can do is just walk away. You don't know where the person went. And again, this mirrors having someone maybe with a verbal attack, and you're just willing to let that go. So sometimes we even think about it like, here it comes, there it goes. And we just let it go. So you can play out that role now. And Mike, you'll step in here. So you'll reach across to his shoulder and you'll just let it go. But you learn to step behind him and distance yourself, which is important. Always maintaining a safe distance. A couple more times. Maybe twice more.
Just go this way.
Again, different hand. It's not a wrong technique. It's just another technique. Okay, go ahead and exchange roles.
Do we bow? Part of the ethics?
Ideally, yes. Thank you so much for what I've learned at the end. But actually in the beginning, we say onegashimasu, but you can just say, please teach me. So please teach me. And what that does is when we bow, we are willing to close our eyes and empty our mind and be willing to receive that person as if they don't have a history of maybe conflict or strained emotions, let's say.
Okay.
Good thing to keep in mind.
We just let them go. Here they come, there they go. Okay, great. Another thing we can do, gentlemen, if you'd stand over here, Stephen, and then we'll work with Stephen, as if we're fingertips distance apart, almost like shaking hands. Well, right foot forward, right hand forward. So almost as if we're shaking hands, but just a little bit farther apart. This is a nice distance to get comfortable with because you're safe from that person. In order for you to step forward from a strictly martial aspect, you would have to take one step to make contact with me, right? So if we're walking down the street and there's a stranger or something, or we're just uncomfortable with someone, knowing how to stay about this far away is nice. Sometimes we don't know. We don't develop a sensitivity of, again, being too close, not being safe. So with fingertips distance apart, you do have to take a step to touch me. So if you were to reach in for the shoulder again, what I can do is just walk to this neutral point. So as you reach, I walk and pretty much disappear, right?
Yeah.
So rather than create conflict here, I might press or touch to the side, but I walk out this way. Again, if you were to grab me hard, then I have to start from the worst possible position for me because it's a static grab. So in Aikido, we might start training this way, but we begin by understanding the opportunity of a flowing motion. So as you grasp, take this hand and just press and then walk past. So this hand comes past and you just keep walking. It's just enough to keep going. So now you can stay there and then you'll step forward and grasp, and with this hand, you'll just touch and brush him away. So again, you're learning not to tie into the psychology and to just let the energy flow by. Left or right doesn't matter. and just letting them go. In fact, the lighter the touch, the better. That's okay. That is not a wrong technique.
Probably wouldn't have worked out well.
There are plenty of techniques that you can do from there. That's not wrong. We just didn't cover that tonight. Okay, so let's exchange roles. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Of course, please teach me.
Please teach me.
One of the other things we can do is, could you have the chair right here? So go ahead and sit. You go ahead and stand here. I'll sit in the chair. So many times we're working. Come over here, Mike. We're working away, and we know we have a meeting with someone, and we know that I have a meeting with my manager, and he doesn't like what I'm doing, and what do we do when they come over?
Cower.
We cower. This is not a very positive way for me to begin a conversation.
No.
But if I know we have a meeting, say at 2 o'clock or so, and I know you're arriving, oh, hi, Stephen, you're here.
Hi, Michael. We've got to talk about a few things.
Okay, great. Have a seat. Who's leading the direction of the conversation? Now, I don't want to be, sorry, I don't want to be dominant over what you're going to say or take control that way. It should be mutual. But here's the interesting thing. Most people, when they know someone is approaching, they stand up too late. So wait until I get very close. See how uncomfortable that is? But instead, if you know I'm approaching, go ahead and stand up when I get to about this position. What's happening? You're throwing off my timing. Okay?
And I'm also leaning in toward you.
You are. You're leaning in toward me. So let's just try that once. Well, just once. You just have one opportunity.
Try to intimidate me, Mike.
No.
Hi. Good to see you.
Okay, now stay seated.
Stephen, how are you?
Could be better.
Okay. That's all the time we have for today. Gentlemen, thank you so much for
Thank
helping
you.
out and demonstrating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we're going to have just a moment to see what Aikido looks like on the mat from our Aikido senseis.
Today we are welcomed by David Jenkins Sensei, who teaches Aikido in Salinas. David, will you introduce yourself and a little bit about why you chose Aikido?
I'm David Jenkins, and I've been studying Aikido for about 15 years. Prior to that, I've studied other martial arts, but I had the pleasure of working with a gentleman who trained under Kaminari Sensei, and my interest developed there, and from there we started training in the parking lot at work, then on the beach, and then we got a dojo going. So,
Wonderful. David and I are going to practice some Aikido with direction by Kaminari Sensei.
First, let's demonstrate the two-step. So the two-step, starting with fingertip to fingertip and exchanging position. Go ahead. Now, all they're doing is learning to move and keep their center and balance. I shouldn't say that's all they're doing because there's so much more happening here. And you can see the technique starts to evolve as the hands start to naturally swing into various techniques and positions. Okay, so from there, let's start out something and show Katatitori Tentana. Katatitori. So here, and simply learning to turn to the side. So each time, just starting very slowly, you'll see that a target is offered. So you're leading the direction of the attack. Rather than stand there, you're leading and redirecting the energy in a circular motion and neutralizing it. Whether it be in a pin or a throw is completely up to them. But holding and turning. Again, there's a point of contact that is most intense, and then when the turn happens, the contact is dissipated. Just a couple times each. Again, they're just walking through these techniques at a very basic level. Of course, you can see the history of jiu-jitsu and the joint locks in that technique. And some of the more flowing sword techniques. Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. For the next one, let's go for grasping across to the shoulder, as was demonstrated earlier. Onegaishimasu. Letting it go. And exchange roles. Okay, very good. And from behind. Shoulders held from behind. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.
That seems to be all the time we have today. Sensei, thank you so much for being here. Please tell us how we can find out more about Aikiway professional development.
My website is aikiway.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end with some light randori. Sensei Jenkins and I will be throwing each other throughout the rest of the show. Thank you.